Sawdudes, Prometheus Lens asked, can you please make a glaive build for hunters with Triton's Vice? Yes, I can, and here it is. I'm sorry it took so long. I had a ton of other builds prepped and Warframe just got a massive title update. Today's glaive build will focus on multiplying our glaive melee damage as much as possible while still having multiple safety measures. Even though I think this build is pretty fun and fairly viable, I will be sharing my thoughts about the exotic Rework at the end. Let's get started. Let's go over the game loop. You'll want to approach combat by charging your glaive shield, either with projectile hits or holding out the glaive. Then throw a vortex grenade into the middle of the group to pull them together and weaken them. Get close and melee them to death, guarding when you think they will retaliate. If enemies get low, you can shoot them with your glaive to kill them and cause an elemental explosion. Should your glaive run out of energy, use your dodge to go invisible and get to safety. Rinse and repeat. For this build, I think Shadow Shot Deadfall is the move. It fires a void anchor that tethers enemies and applies weaken and suppress to those tethered. Tethered enemies share 50% of the body shot damage taken to other tethered enemies. This is perfect for our glaive melee attacks. Gambler's Dodge provides instant melee ability regeneration and is better than Marksman's Dodge for this build. Snare Bomb weakens combatants for 8 seconds, which helps increase our effective damage for all weapons. Vortex Grenade helps group up enemies for easy pickings and helps apply damage over time easily. Today's build uses the Stylish Executioner and Vanishing Step aspects. Stylish Executioner causes kills against enemies that are suppressed, volatile, or weakened to grant invisibility and true sight for 7.8 and 4 seconds respectively. Melee attacks while invisible from Stylish Execution deal 150% increased damage and weaken enemies for 5 seconds. Vanishing Step causes dodging to activate void invisibility for 4.8 seconds. Fragments for the Mr. Krabs cheeked up build are Echo of Persistence, Remnants, Starvation, and Undermining. Persistence causes void buffs to last about 40% longer. Remnants increases the duration of Vortex Grenade by 50%. Starvation causes Orb and Void Reach pickups to grant Devour for 5 seconds. And finally, Undermining causes our grenades to apply Weaken on hit for 5 seconds. Let's cover Mr. Krabs' bathing suit. On the helmet, I use Harmonic Siphon, Special Ammo Finder, and Ashes to Assets. You can use Heavy Ammo Finder instead of Ashes to Assets if you want. For the Crab Claws, I went with Firepower, Grenade Kickstart, and Bolstering Detonation. I didn't masterwork them because I am broke. The chestplate had melee damage resistance, concussive dampener, and harmonic resistance. On the boots, I chose Recuperation, Absolution, and Innervation. Since Devour only restores 100 HP after the nerf, Recuperation is viable for full health return. Feel free to sub it out if you want. And on the cloak was Bomber, Reaper, and Powerful Attraction. The stats I decided to invest in are Mobility, Resilience, and Discipline. Mobility lowers our dodge cooldown, allowing us to throw more snare bombs. Resilience prevents us from getting clapped, and Discipline directly lowers our grenade cooldown for more crowd control and weakening effects. The rest of your stat points should be dumped into Intellect for a lower super cooldown. If you like SpongeBob references, consider dropping a sub. You'll get richer than Krabs if you do. Today's build only has one weapon loadout, but I'll quickly discuss alternatives at the end of it, just in case you want a different way to play. Weapon loadout 1 uses Submission, Vexcalibur, and Retrofit Escapade. Submission is solid up close and will be our backup weapon for range damage. If our glaive runs out of shield energy and ammo, it's a great fallback weapon. I have a Subsistence and Frenzy roll that works perfectly with our playstyle. Frenzy can proc while Submission is stowed, meaning that we can poke enemies with our glaives, then switch to our damage buff gun. Subsistence is perfect for reloading the gun on the fly and keeps us on the move while we find safety. Vexcalibur is the best exotic glaive for this build and the only one that can make use of Triton Vice's Elemental Explosion. Vexcalibur's shotgun-esque projectiles hit the hardest out of all special ammo glaives, so killing adds and even some yellow bars is fairly easy. Vexcalibur's melee attacks deal 20% more damage while a Void Overshield is active, which we can easily acquire by guarding for a couple of seconds. We can fully refresh the health and duration of this Overshield by scoring a glaive melee kill. With Triton Vice's buff, Weaken, and a Void Overshield active, we will do 2.76 times more glaive melee damage. It's the bargain brand Worm God Caress for hunters. To be honest with you, the heavy slot does not matter all too much. I'm using a 4 times a charm and target lock Retrofit Escapade for good total damage, but you can use anything. Retrofit offers great boss and champion melting potential and extends our effective combat range. Plus, it works well with our tether from our super for mopping up stragglers. If you don't want to use Retro, try out Regnant, or the newest linear fusion rifle, Doom Petitioner. One role I'm looking forward to farming is Reconstruction and Precision Instrument. Now, if you don't want to use Vexcalibur, you can swap it out for the Enigma and use an exotic heavy weapon like Tractor Cannon. This change will turn the build into an anchor for the team, rather than an ad clear monster. The Enigma doesn't have the offensive power of Vex, but we can make up for it by weakening enemies with Tractor Cannon, which increases the damage enemies take by 30%. You can boop a target with Tractor Cannon and go to town on them with the Enigma, or you can just use any void heavy weapon you want. There's always Leviathan's Breath. That is the build. As for the rework, let's talk about it. Currently, Triton Vice grants 50 reload speed and 100% increased glaive melee damage while near 3 enemies that are within 15 meters. Synthesips grants 100% increased glaive melee damage and 35 reload speed with the same activation requirements, but also buffs normal melee damage, super damage, and buffs weapon handling. Even though Triton Vice does cause enemies to explode on glaive projectile kills, it is entirely useless in higher end content. I can't justify using this exotic when I can easily log onto my Titan and get much better results. Buffing the glaive damage simply isn't enough. I think the explosions are unnecessary and don't add anything to the exotic. One idea I came up with was to make the gauntlets increase the guard duration of glaives by 25% since glaives are defensive weapons. The crab claw is a massive part of the exotic and I think Bungie should build into it. Various crab species use algae or anemones to protect themselves, kind of like a suit of thorn armor. Another concept I came up with is to make the guard damage enemies that are within a close range and deal moderate damage to those who attack it with a short cooldown. I'm really hoping that this exotic gets some love. It's too unique looking to not get appreciated, and while I do like niche exotics, this one was very underwhelming to use even after the buff. Let me know what you guys think of the build and rework ideas that you have in the comments. As always, thank you for watching and happy farming.